people have more fear of losing $1,000 that they have than to lose $10,000 that they don't have. What does it cost you to not invest in yourself? His potential gain was not 6 figures, was not 5 figures, was about 7 figures. All human beings have that bias. We all have an aversion to loss. We have a stronger aversion to loss than we have to not gain. And that aversion to loss / not gain is really something to work through on your journey of entrepreneurship, or something that I had to work through my journey. And I can see in the colleagues that I have who are doing well, they had to overcome. This thought stayed in my head based on a conversation I just had with a couple of my colleagues. All the conversations we have and all what we facilitate can be summarized in somebody getting better thinking about their problems and therefore making better decisions based on better thinking, and then get better results based on better actions, based on better thinking. One of the fallacies that we have to work with, and that one of my colleagues brought up, is fear of loss over fearing not to gain. And I can specify that a little bit by saying it's very simple. People have more fear of losing $1,000 that they have than to lose $10,000 that they don't have. But on your journey of entrepreneurship, you will have to repeatedly bet your 10,000 that you have on a $10,000 gain, or 10,000 on a $100,000 gain, or 100,000 on $1 million gain, over and over and over again. And what will come up is this fear of loss. And just to understand how this fear can cloud our thinking, I walk you through part of the conversation that was occurring today. One of my colleagues, he got an opportunity to work in an organization, and they would offer him a very minimum pay below his normal fee, with a potential upside in when the business performs over a certain threshold, he would gain part of the upside. Now, in the conversation, what came up was that not only would he participate in the upside, he would also get access to a very powerful network of other business owners and corporates and leaders in organizations. And we furthered this discussion to go to the point where he said, yeah, but what if I'm coaching there and then I'm only earning this fee and I do this for a year, which is the agreement they're talking about, and then I will have spent so much time and only gained this, like I'm losing all my time. Now, what we then looked at together was, okay, would he lose all this time, but how would he use his time? Could he use his time in a way that would generate upside or potential upside? And we found a way that it could. He could make it part of the deal to be introduced to people in the network of his potential client. Now, I'm going long, but I want to drive home this point, which is he was scared to lose his time and only earn a little bit of money. But in the discussion, what we found is that when he sets it up properly, his potential gain was not 6 figures, was not 5 figures, was about 7 figures. Because the upside of the relationships he would get introduced to and the potential business from there, even if he would perform at an absolute minimum, he would make about 10 extra grand a month. But it took him a moment, and this guy is trained, like it took him a moment to recognize that opportunity. And I'm sharing this because it's so fresh, and I just spent an hour in this conversation, and I thought it might be valuable to you because all human beings have that bias. We all have an aversion to loss. A lot of the people that I'm working with, sometimes, like they wonder at first, why would I spend 10 grand on a coaching agreement? Why would I spend 20 grand on a coaching agreement? And they fear spending this money. And when I walk through with them what it is they want to work on, and then ask them some questions like, hey, if we have a conversation like this every week for a year, how much more likely do you think you meet goal X? And they say, like, way more likely. And I'm like, okay, what is this way more likely worth to you? And they give me a number that's far above what I'm charging. And I'm saying, like, that's why I'm charging this. Because you're not only paying me, you're paying for that opportunity that you're going for, that you're realizing. A lot of times in business, you have to pay for the opportunity that you're realizing. You might have to pay by investing in a course. You might have to pay by getting consultancy. You might have to pay by launching a product and then testing if it really works. You bet your time or resources on potential, not on avoiding losing money all the time, especially not in the growth phase of your business. But a lot of people, they pat themselves on the shoulder for saving $5,000 a month on not hiring somebody. Like, hey, I can do it without an assistant, for example, which is another story I have with one of my clients. He saved 30 grand in spending in a year to not gain 2, 3, 400,000 in the same year. Why? Because he had to spend all his time doing admin work, which somebody else could do, which would have allowed him, if he didn't have to do this, would have allowed him to go for the high revenue activities in his business, which only he did do. Like, he was the main revenue driver in his business, wrapped up in admin work. But he saved a couple grand a month on not hiring somebody to take over this admin work, because the fear of losing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month was bigger than him seeing the loss of the opportunity of him being able to work an extra 10, 20 hours a week on high revenue generative activities. If I'm looking back, like, on programs that I spent money on, and I spent over, I think by this point it will be like 200, maybe 220 grand on development and coaching and training and different training programs and one-on-one tutoring, one-on-one coaching, and more. If I'm looking at that, like, if I did my first coaching training, doing the training, the skills that I got me from earning about $2,000 a month to about 10 grand a month in the span of 2.5 years. The money that I spent, and I think it was 11, 12 grand, maybe with flight and accommodation, let it be 14 grand. I spent 14 grand to get a skill that after 2 years, I'm making 8 grand more than I made before. Just in 1 year, I'm making an extra 100 grand at 96 grand. If you multiply that by 30 more years of my working time, the upside of that one training is so huge. But at the time, it looked like an worldly investment, like too much money for me to even think about, because I didn't have that money at the time. I had to figure out how to get this money and put it into the training. And when I spent 40 grand on coaching, same thing. I'm like, okay, this is a huge sum of money. 40 grand on this business coach that I'm spending, like, people said to me, like, this is crazy. This is more than I'm making a year. But the skills and the knowledge and the training and the abilities that I got and the thinking that I got by spending this money, I say is going to be worth millions for my business. Millions. And most people get stopped before that thought because you don't think it through, right? If you do this extra training and you make an extra 3, 4, 500 grand, even if it's in your job, like, you can ask your employee, hey, if I would invest in which skill, what would justify you paying me more money? Like, if you had that skill, okay, you go and you get that skill, it might cost you 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. But if it means a $500, euro, whatever increase a month, in 1 year you have gotten the money back. And in 2 years, you're making profit every month. In 5 years, you made multiple of what you invested. But people don't understand investing, and they don't understand what it costs them to not go for the opportunity. If you would have the skill right now to make 50 grand a month, you would make 50 grand a month. And I'm just talking monetarily. There's so many other skills. There's the skill of understanding how to be in a relationship, communication, how the mind works, right? What would it mean for you if you got the understanding for yourself, the embodied understanding of how to really live fulfilling and happy relationships? I mean, it's a skill that you will use for the rest of your life. What's that worth? How much would that compound in your life experience? Tremendously. But you're hesitating on spending, I don't know, 120 euros on a good therapist, or 2,000 on a retreat, on a couples retreat in Bali. What can that mean for your relationship for the rest of your life? If you're married, for example, and you plan on staying in the relationship for the rest of your life. But people are so immediate that they don't get that. They rather spend 50 grand on a car where they can see immediately, oh, its value, it's here, than to spend 50 grand on developing a skill that puts them from 5,000 a month to like 15,000 a month over the course of 2 years. I mean, with basic math, you should understand it's so much more valuable. So much more valuable. I hope it's useful for you and it gave you some food for thought about where am I investing and what am I actually losing out by not investing. Most people look at, what am I going to pay for this, or what is going to cost me when I do X, but they don't think about what's going to cost me if I don't do that. What is it going to cost you if you just assume this is the state of your relationships, your romantic ones? Like it's just, you're an adult and this is how you learn to live relationships, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Or your money making skills, or your skill as a leader, right? What does it cost you to not invest in yourself, to not invest in your skill set, to not invest in your ability to understand yourself and other people? I don't know. For me, if I determine this number, like, there are skills I know, not having them cost me millions monetarily, like real money. Not embodying certain traits is costing me my peace. It's costing me my quiet of mind. Continuously investing in thought illusions of cause and effect, of thinking that my feelings come from the outside world, or though this is the only thing that can produce feelings, and having a say about what I'm experiencing, not fully embodying that skill, it's costing me massively. So what is it costing you to not do those things, to not invest, to not go the next step, to not put your mind on improving the relationship you're in? I don't know. Only you can answer. Okay, finish Friday rant. I wish you a wonderful weekend. Have a great day.